Good afternoon. So we're coming to the end of our two-day forum. Thank you to our colleagues who have just presented. And before Davide and I talk about the results of our the liaison committee's research on global citizenship with the NGO partners, I'd just like to say how difficult this process has been to put together with our colleagues on the liaison committee and our colleagues on the steering committee unable to be together. For the last forum that was held in December 2019, it was a meeting in person in Paris. The steering committee were able to meet in advance and talk. The liaison committee was able to meet. I was very honored to be a speaker at that forum, and I was able to come to Paris, meet with the steering committee, meet with the liaison committee, and deal with all of these small things that make connecting a meeting like this so very challenging. And I would really like to extend my personal thanks to the members of the steering committee and to the liaison committee for their tireless hard work and support to make this happen, because obviously there's been a few small blips along the way, but I think we've had a fantastic level of participation from NGO partners and from non-NGO partners and from individuals who have been interested around the world. And I think the geographic distribution at this forum has really been quite spectacular. And this was something that Davide certainly brought in with his mandate as the president of the liaison committee as a real target, was to increase the diversity of engagement, to increase our reach. And I hope that this forum, as the person semi-responsible, I hope that this forum has gone some way towards achieving that. And speaking of diversity, we can come to the topic of this presentation, which is the results of our surveys and research on global citizenship. So in the previous mandate in 2019, when work began for this forum, we conducted, using an online platform, a survey to reach NGO partners, asking them about their priorities for global citizenship and asking them for how they interacted with the topic of global citizenship, what they saw as the need for action, whether they felt things were already being done, whether they could identify gaps in priorities, and that research took a long time. So we had an initial survey, as I said, and then when the forum was delayed and this forum was being planned, we wanted to make sure that more voices could be heard. And so we slightly modified that survey and sent it out again to NGOs. Across the two surveys, with about a year in between, we received 191 responses, which we thought was pretty positive. And certainly the most responses that the liaison committee has had to a survey of this nature. So in terms of results, as we identified in the video earlier, 12.5% of these 191 NGOs identified achieving global citizenship as their #1 priority. It doesn't seem like a huge number, but as their #1 priority, 12.5%. Of these, 73% said that promoting and safeguarding human rights is the most critical action. And I know there's dialogue over the role of human rights as a UNESCO priority, and I know that the view that has been expressed by our colleagues yesterday, the Deputy Director General, is that those human rights are absolutely encompassed in education, in all of the SDGs and in all of UNESCO's priorities, even if not explicitly framed in that context. 60% of those responding NGOs prioritize strengthening solidarity in the service of vulnerable people. We would like to highlight some of the key quotes that came from NGO partners. This was very much a qualitative rather than quantitative study of global citizenship. We wanted diverse voices to express in their own words their engagement with the concept of global citizenship. as was said yesterday by our colleagues, whether it was Ban Ki-moon, whether it was the Deputy Director General of UNESCO, global citizenship means different things to different people in different places. The important thing is that we are focused on achieving it. So we would like to pull out some of these quotes that we feel really indicate the collective feelings of our community and which were highlighted by the responses.
So I start with the first quote. The improvement of quality of life and the achievement of sustainable development places a high demand for scientific and technological literacy on all citizens.
Complementing that, if global citizenship is identity based on a connection to humanity that transcends borders, then the access to that humanity through access to information is paramount. And the relationship around information and humanity is one that has come up several times over the last 2 days and is further reflected in some of these further quotes.
We believe that freedom of expression, access to information, preservation and access to cultural heritage and information literacy are central in developing societies where people can identify as global citizens.
I know the first NGO speaker, Andrea, commented that education hadn't been a constant theme in the forum thus far, although it was obviously heavily mentioned in the opening session and with Ms. Giannini's presentation. And I think actually what comes across is, as he referenced Ban Ki-moon's statement on non-formal education, is that every single one of our speakers over the last 2 days has touched on the importance of education. It may not be schooling, but it is education and it is sharing and it is communicating. So to our next quote, our common ground is working together globally on the prevention of all forms of violence, conflict and war, non-violent conflict solutions, including women equally and meaningfully in all democratic decision-making and negotiations. Our culture is based on remembering the past, being inspirational for the present and visionary for a sustainable and peaceful future.
Indeed, being visionary, that's very important. The next quote, it's very much connected to this, and is: a global citizen is someone who sees himself in a broader context, who believes that they can do well and encourage change at the community level and leads by example.
Speaking of leadership, this next quote addresses exactly that. There is an urgent need to fill the current global leadership vacuum in order to address the complex, pressing challenges confronting humanity today. Leadership is needed at all levels and in all fields. The leadership needed must be inspired by universal civic values and visionary ideas, energized by high goals and awareness of untapped opportunities, giving expression by courageous citizens, implemented by innovative organizations, and fulfilled by awakening and unleashing the aspirations of the whole of society. And I think we certainly heard these last points in our last panel, the idea of giving expression by courageous citizens, innovative organizations, and awakening and unleashing the aspirations of the whole of society really echoes with our last panel of speakers.
And yes, this is, I was overwhelmed. I'm still overwhelmed. And I'm really impressed on how, I mean, we have been reading this before, but reading again and reading this out loud, it shows once again how powerful is the subject, how important it is, and how important it is for our community of NGOs. So I introduce with this the next quote: global citizens develop a good sense of critical thinking and understanding. They will be able to engage actively with their community and work with others to connect worldviews in order to transform society, to jointly address our local and global challenges to ensure better equality, fairness, and to help foster a more sustainable world. That's really powerful.
It is. And I think it absolutely echoes this constant discourse we've had over the last 2 days of local and global, local, global, national, international, global. These barriers that we still give ourselves. And I think COVID has hopefully taught all of us that those, whilst those borders may be closed, they must not be impenetrable. So we will shortly be publishing all of the videos that you've seen in the last 2 days on the Liaison Committee website. We will be publishing the videos submitted by NGOs in advance for this forum on the Liaison Committee website, which can be found at www.ngo-UNESCO.net, N-E-T. And that website is fully bilingual in French and English. The videos, where possible, are in multiple languages or have subtitles, and we will work to improve that. As far as I know, this is the first forum in this format that has been organized in 3 languages, and indeed the first digital forum. And it's not been without its challenges, both physical and technical, but I think it was an important step to try, for this event at least, and have the addition of Spanish as a language for participation. We know that with the work the Liaison Committee has done recently with the regional webinars, that engaging with our NGOs in the Latin American and South American part of the world is really critical, and their voices must be heard, and it's been wonderful to have those heard in the last 2 days. And I know that there is already work being done in the African regions and further afield to try and increase that engagement. So I think we're probably
almost at the end.
So I will sign off. I will hand over to Davide and our colleague, Mr. Jean-Yves Grosso from UNESCO. But from me, thank you very, very much for everyone who's participated over the last 2 days. Thank you to all our speakers. Thank you to all our NGOs who have spoken. Thank you to everyone who has participated on the chat. And thank you all for joining us over the last 2 days.
Thank you, Nick.